Hey babes, welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new. My name is Brandy. I am the host of the Be Real Babe show, and today, you guys, it is time for some internet insanity. And as usual, I found one story that kicked me down a rabbit hole, and considering that I am traveling in the next week or so while this launches, it kind of freaked me out, and I don't know what I was doing. So you're going to come down this rabbit hole with me, even though all three stories are around cruise ships, which I am not going on, so I don't know why I'm so nervous. I thought these things are maybe topics that we could talk about, because I wouldn't have thought about these things, that these things could happen on cruise ships. And I'm not saying they're dangerous or anything, but there's just been a lot going around lately about cruise ships. There's so many Netflix documentaries, so many open questions, unsolved situations, and there's a couple more that has happened within the last month. So I thought we could talk about that. So if you're interested in listening to that, stick around and we'll jump right in. Okay, guys, as mentioned, as this airs, I am on my way on vacation, but don't worry, I'm going to be recording this weekend as well, and I'm going to be publishing some episodes while I'm gone. So there's some hopefully entertainment for all y'all that are tuning in. Thank you guys so much. So I'm very excited about that. And as mentioned, I found the one story I've been watching, Long Crime, keeping up with the last story we're going to talk about today. And so it kind of just sent me down a rabbit hole. I was looking, I found some other stories that have to do with cruise ships, and there's some things that I don't know that I never would have thought could happen. So I thought there could be some nuggets that we take out of this, especially if you are traveling, if you are going on cruise ships. I'm not saying they're dangerous. I'm not saying nothing. I'm just saying Netflix has got a lot of documentaries lately about that. So I thought we could kind of talk about different situations that have happened. Some are extremely tragic and some were obviously very traumatizing, but didn't end in as big of tragedy. So we'll go for the first one that isn't as brutal, but also equally terrifying. And it made me think, what the fuck would I do if I'm in this situation? So this was published on November 11th. Cruise ship horror with dozens of frightened passengers left floating in the ocean. Could you fucking imagine? A holiday turned into a bit of a horror over the weekend when dozens of people had to jump from a sinking boat. Frightened cruise ship passengers were left floating in the ocean when the catamaran they were using on a day trip went down. It is reported that potentially about 55 people from the German vessel Mein Schiff, I am so sorry, one, were out in the waters of the Caribbean when the catamaran Boca de Yuma 1 suffered from a devastating leak. Out on the Samana Bay in the Dominican Republic, the passengers reportedly had to jump off and into the sea, as images on social media shows the catamaran pretty much submerged after flooding. Luckily, it said the boat went down while it was in sight of the cruise ship and everyone was rescued from the water, but that doesn't belittle them being pretty scared. Like, could you fucking imagine? I'm so glad the cruise ship was right there, but like, I don't know. I don't know what time of year, if it's cold or not, but I just imagine like that's got to be scary as shit, and like feel of relief. But what if you don't know how to swim? You know, like what? Oh, so scary. The Dominican Navy reportedly ended the upcoming passengers' rescue as their nationalities are not known, and it's reported there may have been children on board. The Dominican Navy reportedly ended up coming to the passengers' rescue as their nationalities are not currently known, and it's reported there may have been children on board. Oh, children. Videos doing the rounds on social media show seamen tossing out life rings to help the travelers in the sea before hauling them up to safety. Local people in the community of El Crucero, apologies, are also said to have helped with these rescue efforts. However, a relative of those affected in the instances claimed the terrified passengers didn't necessarily get all the help they needed. My ship offered no assistance or even anything about this incident, they claimed to RTL in a translated report. Oh. The Port Authority reportedly said of the incident over the weekend, the Dominican Republic Navy is working closely with local authorities to identify those responsible and take measures to prevent such an incident from happening again. TUI Cruises operate the cruise and has confirmed that the outlet that confirmed to outlets that representatives are in discussion with the provider of the day trip and police are investigating the cause behind this horror. A spokesperson for the Germany-based cruise line confirmed to Mir that the passengers were traveling on an externally operated boat. The excursion catamaran from an external provider sank during an excursion. All of the passengers are said to have made it safely back on board, and with a capacity of 4,000 guests, the ship carried on its planned journey to head towards Jamaica. I would shit a brick. Not like mad, just like terrified being in an ocean. And I know you can see the big ship, but like that is so scary. And this had nothing to do with the ship. This is more unlike something maybe if we go, I have to be obviously aware. I think hopefully, fingers crossed, we won't be going on any boats now after I'm reading these stories. Just kidding. But, it had nothing to necessarily do with the ship. It was just outside excursion. But things that people really do a lot on cruise ships is go and enjoy the local spaces, right? And they go and enjoy the local things, right? So just be extra careful. I mean, you can't prevent this, but like, I don't know, make sure you have your life jackets on and stuff like that. Don't be silly. But that I couldn't imagine. I'm so glad no one was harmed in this one. But like I said, I don't know, like if that's if it's, I imagine it's warm. I don't know. I'm so ignorant to that. I don't know. I'm from the West Coast where all fucking ocean is freezing cold. So that's immediately where my thoughts go, is like freezing cold and sharks. That's where my head goes. And I would be freaking out. I'm not an adult in those situations. So that's one thing for myself. I'm also taking a note, like wherever I'm going next this week as this airs, I'm going to make sure to bring a life jacket just in case something happens. Okay, so the second story is another tragedy. It's not the original one that I was watching, that I'm following here, trying to keep up on the details of what's going on in this case. But this one is another one that I found that I kind of blew my mind, because I've never been on a cruise, but I have heard sometimes it is a little bit like touch and go. You only have a certain amount of time and then the ship leaves, right? But I imagine that people get lost and caught up, and like, what if something bad happens? But I would never imagine that someone would pass away when this happens. So we're going to go to this story. We're all going all around the world. So that was in Dominican Republic when that happened on a German ship. And well, the German passengers on a local catamaran in Dominican. And this one is coming out of Australia. And this is a couple weeks ago, October 29th, 2025. Investigation after a woman left behind by cruise ship dies on island. An 80-year-old Australian woman has been found dead on Great Barrier Reef Island after being left behind by the cruise ship she was traveling on. The woman had been hiking on Lizard Island, 250 kilometers north of Cairns, with fellow passengers from the Coral Adventure cruise ship on Saturday, but is believed to have broken off from the group to have a rest. The ship left the island around sunset but returned several hours later after the crew realized the woman was missing. A major search operation found her body on Sunday morning. No details have been released. The Australian Maritime Safety Authority said it was investigating and would meet the ship's crew later this week. It is understood the woman, who has not been named, was on the first stop of a 60-day cruise around Australia, which tickets costing in the tens of thousands of dollars for that journey. That's a long one, 60-day cruise. Holy smokes. Apologies for the move around here. As you can see, co-host is back for a little bit. You want to hear about cruise ships? Okay, that's a yes. So as I was saying, 60 days, that is crazy. I don't think I could last on a boat that long, to be honest, you guys. I think maybe 7 days might be my max. I grew up around the ocean, around the water and boats and stuff. So that part I don't think would bother me, but the thought of being trapped, and if you feel seasick and you're stuck seasick the whole time, like I commend people that go on 60 days. Y'all are brave. Y'all are brave. I'm a pussy. Okay. She joined a group hike to the island's highest peak, Cook's Look, before she decided she needed to rest, according to the Courier Mail's newspaper. But she did not make it back to the ship, which then departed without her. Incidents like this are rare, and cruise ships have systems to record which passengers are embarking and disembarking. Harriet Mallinson, cruise editor for travel website Salazwazi, told BBC. Sneaking ashore or back on board just isn't an option, she said. Cruise lines take these procedures very seriously and have a clever tech in place to prevent such incidents from happening. This is most likely a very shocking and tragic one-off, Miss Mallinson added. That is just crazy, though. Like, definitely can understand that. But I think we need to be reviewing maybe some of our processes just to make sure, like, how did we leave with one person? And I think just a note for, alone travelers, solo travelers. I know there's a lot of people out there that do it successfully and they're all safe. Like, maybe just make sure if you are solo that maybe you do try to make friends with someone on there. Just let them know where you are. Make sure that, they don't take off without you. And I'm not saying that would have prevented her death, because I'm not sure what happened. I'll have to dive deeper when I get back to figure out if they have released anything more on here. But, just to at least make sure they're not leaving. I know they have things in place and that's not your job, but sometimes I think it's just good to meet some people around, especially if you're going to be on a boat with these people for 60 days, right? Tracy Ayres was sailing near the island last weekend and told the Australian Broadcasting Corporation that she saw a helicopter using a spotlight to search a walking trail on the island at around midnight on Saturday. She said about 7 people with torches went to the island to search, but it was called off around 3 a.m. on Sunday, with helicopter returning on Sunday morning when the body was apparently found. We knew she was dead because they called everyone back to the search immediately. From the search immediately, she told ABC. And no one went to the spot that the chopper was hovering over until later that day and when the police arrived. A spokesperson for AMSA said that it was first alerted to the missing woman around 2100 on Saturday by the ship's captain. The authority said it would work with other relevant agencies to investigate the case and that it takes the safety of passengers and crew on board commercial vessels seriously. Ms. Aris also said the incident was clearly distressing for crews and passengers. It was very sad in the Paradise to have this tragedy occur. It should have been a happy time for that lovely lady. A report into the sudden and non-suspicious death of the woman will be prepared by the coroner, Queensland Police said. While investigation into the incidents are continuing, we are deeply sorry that this has occurred and are offering our full support to the woman's family, Mr. Fifield said, who is the chief executive. We are working closely with Queensland Police and other authorities to support their investigation. We are unable to comment further while this process is underway. I'm really sorry to her family. Obviously, you probably aren't ever going to see this, but so this was a first stop of the 60-day trip around Australia. Wow. That's kind of, again, 60 days. That's a long one, but very sad. And again, it just shows like what are the processes. I really hope that the companies are revisiting their processes to check, like they should have never left without her. Again, not saying that if they had, like, that could have happened while anything can happen. It's not the ship's fault by any standards, but there is obviously a hole in that process there that was missed, because even if you have a process and someone didn't follow something, right? And if you're a solo trip person, or, you have somebody in your family, I think it's a good idea to have checkpoints, right? So, and numbers, right? So if you're going on a cruise ship, maybe let your sister or your family or your mom know. And if you don't check in by a certain time, maybe just keep somebody in the loop, And again, I'm not saying that would have prevented this woman's death, but also when you are going on these trips, just make sure you adhere. And again, not sure what happened with her, but those are just good reminders to make sure that we're being conscious of our time and we're not getting lost and caught up in the day and making it back to the ship in a timely manner. Hopefully that never happens again and they're able to come and find you. But sometimes that's hard. How are they going to find you in a city, right? And they gotta move. I know they don't go, but just gotta think of everybody else. Not saying this woman didn't, but just good takeaways to take away from these things if you plan on going on cruises. And after all this information, I don't know if I'll ever go on one. No, again, too many Netflix documentaries. Let's go to the last one. And like I said, this is the story I was watching on Law and Crime that I was keeping up with because it was just so sad. It blows my mind that these things can happen. And then obviously the story's still unfolding, but there's just so many open-ended questions and no one really knows what happened. And I truly hope that things are going on in the background and they do find what happened for this. I don't know if it is a criminal case or not, but 18-year-old woman dies during cruise ship voyage. FBI joins investigation. And that's why I'm kind of wondering, is it a criminal investigation now that the FBI is involved? So this was posted on November 10th. Again, I'm going to be a little bit late posting these things to when they happen, just for vacation's sake. The FBI are investigating a cruise line after an 18-year-old woman died on one of its ships on Saturday. Anna Kepner, a recent high school graduate, was traveling on the Carnival Horizon cruise from Miami to the Caribbean when she died. Details about the circumstances and cause of death have not been released. Carnival Cruise Line confirmed her death in a statement to Global News, saying, "Our focus is on supporting the family of our guest and cooperating with the FBI. Since this is an ongoing matter under the jurisdiction of law enforcement, it is up to the FBI's Miami Public Affairs Office to provide further details. Our focus is on supporting the family of our guest," it continued. Her family told ABC that Kepner was a bright, straight-A student with a bubbly personality. When she walked into a room, she would light it up, her family told the outlet. If you were sad, she'd make you laugh, but she would joke around and be the funnest little person in school. She was a people person, her family continued, adding that she loved being in the water and had recently obtained a boating license and scuba certification. She loved being around people. She had that type of energy that she drew you in with her smile and the way she carried herself. She was such an easy person to talk to. And I'm not going to relate it to the Amy Bradley case. I believe it's Amy Bradley. I'm so sorry if I messed it up. It's been a long week. But that is the same characteristic. So I'm just curious, like, if anybody's looking at the similarities there. Obviously, one's a missing person case, but just interesting when you hear these, like, and maybe something medically happened to her as well. We don't know. But It always seems like the lives of the party, the most charismatic women in the room. So seems to be the big targets, eh? Her family told the outlet that they're struggling to come to terms with her death and lamented the plans she'd never get to see come to fruition. She had just finished taking the test to join the military, They said. She was already talking to recruiters and had chosen her career path. She wanted to do something that would help her community. They added, noting that she was an avid gymnast who was on her high school varsity cheerleading team, volunteered regularly at her grandparents' 55 plus residential neighborhoods, and often lent a hand to local businesses in her hometown of Titusville, Florida. I don't know why I said Florida like it was a question. It's a question. It's not a question. Kepner was a graduate of Temple Christian High School, whose staff described her in a Facebook statement as curious, gentle, and caring. Your absence will be felt every day by your impact. Your absence will be felt every day, but your impact and memories you created will continue to live on in our hearts, her teacher, Mr. Brunner, wrote. In a statement on Instagram, Anna's former employer, Aquamart Aquariums, a local pet store in Titusville, spoke of her tireless work ethic and committed to her job. Anna was a pivotal help before we ever moved into our current building, and during the move itself, she worked tirelessly alongside us. Even after we got settled, she stayed right there helping us finish with all the finishing touches to make everything just perfect. Her grandmother was a retired employee at the same store. So sad. Her family said Anna was the best child you could ever meet. We'll always remember her for who she was. According to Carnival Horizon website, the ship had a guest capacity of 39,060 and a crew of 1,450. The ship sailed to Miami and Galveston, Texas, to the Caribbean. That is so sad. She was so young. I hope that they continue looking out. That's the only reason why I wonder if it's criminal, because they're saying the FBI is involved. So I would imagine, and quote me if I'm wrong, if it was a just like a medical emergency, if she passed away natural causes, would the FBI be involved, or do they have to get FBI involved? I'm not saying that they are the masking, because I don't know. I'm not American. I don't know how it works down there, but I feel like the FBI, they don't really ruin resources. Or is it because it's like in waters, right? Like, I wonder if that's the reason. So if you guys know anything, let me know. I'm sitting back kind of listening and waiting to see. And like I said, there's been a lot of documentaries on Netflix about cruise ships, and I know a lot of people that love them. In hindsight, that sounds amazing, right? Going to a bunch of different places. But y'all, between the poop one and between the missing one and all these other stories that have been happening, I don't know if I'm convinced. But do you have any stories about ships and cruises? Do you have a good experience? Do you have any information on these other ones? What you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much if you made it this far. I hope you liked this episode. Don't forget, on Mondays, we have Keeping Up with Canada, where we talk about Canadian shit. And then Wednesdays, Internet Insanity, bunch of random internet stuff. And then on Fridays on Apple, Spotify, or Rumble, I do have the Be Real Babe podcast, where I do amazing interviews with really dope people. And that's pretty much it. If you want to find me on social media, you can find me on TikTok or Instagram at the Be Real Babe or the Be Real Babe podcast. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Until next time, bye.